This is the daily writing exercise, recorded, day 40, titled Chantia, Morpha. What a good place it was to die. It was the sort of place people dreamt of dying. The sort of place they would tell their friends and neighbors was a fantastic place to die. And it was the sort of place their children would inevitably have to inform them was too expensive to die. Chantia Morpha was a fantastic idea brought to life by the Mercantile Corporation to cater to the more affluent of clientele and provide them with the sort of place any man or woman of their societal stature was comfortable dying in. It was of course open to the wider public as well. There really was no barrier to entry other than a significant sum of money that most could not afford to pay. Then there was the lottery. The lottery was an invention of Bram Miller, a vice president of marketing at the time, who came up with the idea, though sources at the time say that he simply stole the idea from some nameless employee who used to work under him. The idea of the lottery came to fruition when the initial batch of applicants proved to be rather short. There just was not enough of an appetite for the program that unfortunately did cost hundreds of millions of euros to run every single year. A committee was set up to find out why there were so few applicants. The solution of the lottery came after a long string of promotional materials, straight up bribes, and a round of rebranding and refocusing all went horribly wrong. No one could really explain why the lottery turned the Chantia Morpha project into such a success. Its critics were less kind and amply stated the obvious. The rich liked to die whilst watching the poor die with them. Their lives were of such grandeur that they simply could not fathom the magnificence of a place like Chantia Morpha. Well, not like a poor person could. Their imagination and joy had long since been eroded after a lifetime of splendor and pleasure. Chantia Morpha paled in comparison. But to a poor person, it was like heaven. The rich could live out their lives to the eyes of some poor soul and find the little bit of joy that they had lost through the splendor of their lives. What also helped was that Chantia Morpha helped them act like they were normal, and thus they could feel less guilty for the life they had lived compared to others. The trick was of course to make sure that the lottery was rigged, and that for the most part only the actual affluent clients were allowed in, and that only a lucky few pre-selected poor candidates, who by comparison were not really that poor, were allowed in. They were however poor enough to elicit some sort of sympathy from the affluent clientele, but not too poor to make the burden of guilt become unbearable. Bram Miller was hailed a marketing genius and received many awards, never of course for the thought behind the work, but mostly for the advertising campaign associated with it. He of course would never take part in it. He was, by all standards, too poor and unimportant enough. And he died like all the rest of humanity in a most excruciatingly boring and dullish place, his bed, whilst thinking and wishing he had a chance of winning the lottery himself, and die in the magnificence that was Chantia Morpha. No more has been written or recorded. Thank you for listening.